Hello, Jessica. How are you?
I am wonderful, wonderful, so excited. Let me just start off with confession. So today is a great day to confess. It is Sunday.
Right.
And I have been on your show, Caring for KC, 107.3 KC station. I don't know how many times. I don't either. And I want to give you a public apology for never inviting you to come to my show. I just never thought that he would want to come to my. Can you believe that? So yeah.
You do not have to apologize. But it's good to be here finally.
Yes, finally. So you are here, and you already have an open invitation to come back.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have you share with all that you're doing. How can I introduce you? I usually let my guests introduce themselves because they are so powerful in so many ways. I know that you don't like introductions.
I don't.
But I'm going to do it anyway.
Okay.
If that's all right.
Sure.
So, first and foremost, you're a godly man. You are an elder in the Presbyterian Church. Minister today, or preached, or gave the word. What would you call that today?
Gave the word, preached.
Gave the word, preached today in Chanute, Kansas.
Chanute,
Kansas. Drove from Chanute, Kansas to here just like recently, within the last hour and a half.
Got back about an hour ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he came to Jessica Lynn Speaks Life. So first of all, kudos, and there must be something with me. That you would want to do that. I know. My daughter says I'm so corny when I do that laugh, but I guess that's my little trademark. But anyway, it's authentic and it's me. You're a man with a heart for community, and I'm just so excited about all the things you're doing. We're going to get into that. Also, the radio personality at 107.3 KC. I love it when you say magic after dark. Say that line, whatever you say.
107.3 after dark. That?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so cool. I love it.
It's kind of early, but
it is early.
It's a little lower.
It's early.
No.
So 107.3 after dark, as well as Sunday morning inspirations. Tuned in to you this morning on my way to church. So thank you for putting out the gospel for us every Sunday morning. And then the host of Caring KC, you do so much with that show by spotlighting people in the community that are doing great works. And I've been on that show several times, and thank you for all of your work. Anything else you want to add about the Caring for KC?
No, other than if somebody wants to come on the show, it's a great platform. If you have an event, or not that we don't want people to listen to KUAW. That's not what I'm trying to say.
We share the love.
But if you are, it's another platform, because that show actually not only airs on 107.3 KC's R&B and Hip Hop, but it also airs on all the 6 of our other stations.
Wow. And I love that part. I just love that.
A lot of different demographics get to hear about like what you do, Jessica, and all the organizations that we have on. So it's a great platform.
I love it. I love it a lot. So thank you for that. And then one of my favorite things, and many people that grew up, I guess, in the 80s and 90s, know I got a thing for you, baby.
Yep.
Low key. So you are one of the voices and trumpetists of Low Key.
I don't play trumpet as much anymore, and I probably need to do something about that. But yeah, that's part of what I do.
I love it.
Well.
I love it. Well,
I do a lot of stuff.
You do, and I'm sure I left a lot out, so I'm going to push your button and just tell me 2 things that I may have not mentioned about you that you would like to share with the community. One is we want to talk about changing the story for KC.
Running for city council, right? Yeah.
Right. So you're running for city council, 3rd district at large.
Correct.
I love that you are raised on the east side, so shout out to the east side. East High over here. He's Lincoln Prep, but Lincoln High School at the time. But East Side, you know, I'm so excited. I love it when I have guests on the show from the East Side because there's great things that come out of this community. There's great people in this community doing great works. Tell us a little bit about why. What prompted you? You know, I know you called me a year ago and said, "Hey, I'm going to run." And I thought, "Wow, that's so cool. That's so exciting." Everybody knows you. You're a great philanthropist. You do a lot of work for nonprofit. Matter of fact, you've emceed many of our events, and so I'm so excited that you'll be emceeing our 10th organization anniversary.
Okay.
Wow, you know that's next year, right?
I know.
I've already got you pinned in for that.
It's on my calendar.
Yes. So I'm excited about that. So you have emceed so many events, helped raise funds for great causes, and now you're running for City Council 3rd District at Large. Tell us a little bit more about that, Darron.
Well, I guess, Jessica, during the pandemic, in 2020, I think we all had to take a look at, what are we doing it? Why are we doing it? And I guess I became acutely aware of how policy impacts people on the ground. And if you make bad policy, or if you make bad policy decisions, it can harm people. Or not make policy, period, you know. And so it started with when they were trying to pass the CARES Act, the first CARES Act in the pandemic. And I remember skimming through that bill, and one of the things that's jumped out at me was there was a bunch of money going to like NASA and the Kennedy Performing Arts Center. And I'm like, well, what about the people? You know, now eventually people got the money, but I just thought it was pretty disingenuous to be doing that type of politics in the middle of a pandemic. Yeah. Where really the most important thing that we should be doing is making sure that people get what they need, especially those people that really, the pandemic was catastrophic for them. You know, I'm very fortunate that my life didn't change that much, you know, from a financial standpoint or anything like that. But many people suffered catastrophes because of it. And then, so then I just realized that making policy is a categorically the most important thing that a person could be doing. And so I wanted to be put in that position to do that. But I didn't want to go to Washington or that mess. I don't want to go to Jeff City. We have good people that do that. But I realized that local politics, that stuff happens in real time. Like, so when policy happens in City Hall, it happens in real time. We see it, we feel it, we hear it. And so I think I wanted to be part of that process. And I also feel like that in my life right now, I feel like I'm in a season of service.
I love that season of service. Yeah. I love that.
And what better service can you do? And there's lots of ways to do it. I mean, obviously you do it. I mean, many people that we know that we have mutual acquaintances do it. But policy making, making laws and things like that, that can really impact us. And even just making sure that people have the basic stuff that they need. Like, you know, making sure potholes are filled. Making sure the trash is picked up, making sure you have clean water, making sure that when you call the police, they actually come in a timely fashion. And so making sure that those things happen are really just, because when I talk to most people, those are really the things that they're concerned with. You know, the basic
everyday,
services, basic stuff.
Yes.
20% of us get into the weeds with all kinds of nuanced political issues and problems, but regular folk just want to make sure that their trash is getting picked up, you know, and so that's the thing.
Quality of life.
Quality of life. And to tell you a story, real quick, and this is another reason why I'm running. So I'm driving my son to work. He works at Kauffman Stadium. My son Zachary, and he actually works at 2 jobs. He has 2 jobs, and he's going to college.
I love that.
Very proud of him.
So good.
But I took him to Kauffman Stadium. I hit a pothole on my way there. Okay. Drive home, no big deal. Next morning, I saw that my tire was flat because of the pothole I hit.
Sure.
So I called roadside assistance. Okay, they come out. That's when I find out that my Ford Fusion does not have a spare tire. It has a tire mobility kit where it's like an air pump.
Wow.
That you pump up your tire and then you take it to go get it fixed. So no spare, just a pump, which I think is kind of stupid. Well, I didn't want to do that, so I called a tow truck. And they sent the tow truck out, took my car to the mechanic, put on a new tire. I went and picked it up. As I was driving back, it occurred to me that, wow, what if this happens, like where we are right now, we're on what, Cleveland, right off
31st and Elmwood.
31st and Elmwood. So we know on this side of our city, there are people that are struggling. And what if that is Keisha and that happens to her car and she doesn't have the wherewithal to do what I just
the resources to get a tow truck,
to have it
or even
fixed.
call
I mean that
roadside
assistance. I just kind of flippantly did that without thinking about that. But when I was driving back, I was like, wow, this could be catastrophic for someone like her, that she has to now figure out
how she gonna get to work,
how she gonna get her kids to daycare. All those things happen, and then she can't get her car fixed to her next check. Oh, wait a minute, I gotta pay rent. So I mean, I can't get it fixed to my check after that,
and water bill and light bill and unexpected expenses because of a pothole that the city could take care of,
right? You know, and so that also leads me into, that's why we need better public transportation as well. So that if that does happen to someone like her, she can just say, okay, well, I can catch this bus to here, drop my kids off, and then I can go to work without having to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm not talking about that. That's not good mass transit if you got to get up at 4 o'clock again. So that's kind of why I'm in this. So to hopefully make our city better, work better, more efficient, more cooperative with one another. I think that one of the things that I want to propose is that when I get elected,
I love it. Speak it on out.
And whoever else gets elected, that before we even get sworn in, that we come up with a strategic plan for what we're going to do for the next 4 years, so that we can tell the city that these are our plans, and these plans are based upon what we've heard from you, the citizens, not our thing, because we work for you. When you get elected, we serve you. We're only beholden to you, the citizens, because you are like the board of directors, and so we have to be held accountable.
We work for you. Wow, thank you for sharing that story.
That good? That work?
Very good story. Powerful story. Has a lot. It means a lot, and it is reality. The negativity of it, if you did not have those resources, is reality for people who don't have those resources. But what I do want to pick up and say is the pandemic has caused so many life changes for so many people, for the world.
Oh, yeah.
Even just in the way we operate and do things, down to even banking. Just everyday things have changed. What I like about your story is that because of the pandemic, it has pushed you to want to serve the community in even a more deeper way. And that is what...
Believe it or not, Jessica, let me just stop you. My life is great. I mean, I didn't really need to do one more thing.
Right.
But I just feel like, to me, this type of service is a calling.
Yes. just like ministry and anything, it is a calling to run a nonprofit. It's a calling. This is not for the weak at heart. This is service. You have to have a grateful heart of service for the community to even take this step that you're taking. But what I love about it is the irony of the tragedy of the world. The pandemic has pushed you to another level of service. And so what I want to share with listeners is, if there's been a tragic situation in your life, in addition to COVID or losing a loved one or losing a family member, let's dig deep and find how you can make a difference in that tragedy. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
And so thank you. Thank you for being aware and astute and like, oh, I have a great life. I don't have to do all these things. But what about those that don't have these resources? And that's why we do what we do. We want to help those that don't have the resources. Back to,
Well, we have to find ways that all boats can rise together.
Yes.
That tide does not have to be like this, right? We have to, that's the gospel.
Humanity, gospel, yes.
That's just the truth, that we should be helping those that are in need. When to whom much is given, much is required. And if we operate in that way, we can have a strong, vibrant community.
With no one left behind. I love that.
Yeah, but I know it's hard because we have to sometimes get out of our way of our own self-interest.
Ooh, say that again a little bit louder.
We have to get out of our way of our own self-interest.
Wow.
And even when we're operating in a place where it looks like we're being selfless, we can still be operating in a place of selfishness.
Ooh, that's good.
That's why you have to check your motives. That's why I thought about this for a year before I actually started doing, declaring. Because I started working back in last June, actually going through the process, starting to talk to people in the community that I needed to know. But it was a year before that I just thought about it. That I just prayed about it. That I asked my wife, you sure you okay with me doing this? Making sure, checking in, because it's a lot of responsibility.
Sure is.
And also, I got myself to a place, Jessica, where I felt really good about, so when you make decisions, being a politician, a servant, a public servant, I really want to go into that with every decision that I make, asking myself this question first: will I do harm? Or who will I harm? If I vote yes or no on something, I have to always be thinking about the unintended consequences that come along with any decision that I make, right? And I think that sometimes in our hurriedness in this life, we think we're making a good decision, and oftentimes we're not thinking about, well, if I make this decision, what is going to be the fallout? What is the domino effect? Who will it impact? And asking yourself those questions are really important if you are going to make good decisions on behalf of a lot of people, right?
That's right.
Now, sometimes some people won't get what they want, or sometimes people get hurt or harmed based upon these decisions. So when you know that might be the case, I need to be thinking, and then my colleagues need to be thinking, okay, so how can we mitigate that harm? Because there might not be anything we can do about it. Some people are going to be impacted. Like when we talk about development, and development's awesome.
But you may have to move people out of their homes.
People have to move or get displaced. I'm not a fan of that.
We have 71 highway.
Right.
So
we were all excited about that from not thinking about the unintended consequences, right? Wow. We remember those houses that were there. We knew people that lived in those houses along that entire
71
highway. And it didn't occur to me, oh, that's a great idea. Where did they go? Where did all these people go?
Wow.
How much money did they get for their property? Was it fair market value? Well, of course, it's the east side. Probably not.
Not.
So I just think that being thoughtful and not just reacting to things, you gotta just kind of, sometimes you just can't fly off the cuff and do something just because for the optics sake, you know, you want to look like you're doing something.
Yes.
But sometimes, you know, just
Running over
sometimes
people along the way.
sometimes God will tell you, sometimes just be still.
And no.
I am God, you know.
That's good.
So and then in that quiet, hopefully, you know, comes clarity.
Wow. Speaking of quiet, what do you do to manage all that you do to keep? I mean,
She wants to know how I manage it.
yeah, I want to know because it's important to me to try to take care of ourselves. We're
Okay.
very busy. Yes.
Okay,
so talk to me a little bit about your self-care.
This is going out to everybody, but especially my fellow black men.
Speak.
I have a therapist.
That's good.
So every other week, I check in with my therapist for an hour and discuss a myriad of things. And, you know, just that as an outlet and getting, you know, feedback too
Sure.
is important. You know, they listen, but I like feedback. I like something coming back at me, something, give me a tool or a coping something
Mechanism so you can deal with this
so I can
stuff.
deal with this. And
Wow.
I just think that's an important, and this is not something that I just started. I've been in therapy for a long time, you know. Now, don't think that I'm, you know, crazy or anything like that.
And it's so funny. Let me pause you right there.
Because that's what we do. That's what we say.
And let me
I
just
ain't
put it out
crazy.
there. Black people don't go to therapy. Black people are survivors. We have survived
Trauma.
the trauma is in our DNA. We are typically we stay on survivor mode, especially while driving, while in stores, while everywhere. I sometimes find myself on survival mode. And because of what we've survived, Darron, from the Mayflower in the 1600s, coming to America, being enslaved, we are always feeling like we can make it. You know, we are a strong people. And I believe that we are here because so many of our ancestors, you know, made it through slavery, through prayer, and we are their wildest dreams. But I believe in prayer and therapy. I believe in God, therapy, the Bible, and therapy. And we as black people need to, I think we're becoming more open to it.
I agree.
I believe we're becoming more open to it.
We got much better.
But as a black man, I see it more prevalent in black women, the openness, therapy. I've seen statement T-shirts. I believe in God and therapy. I've seen, you know, we have many conferences, women, and events, and we talk about therapy and self-care and all of that. What my husband and I talk about often is I feel like the black man is just falling by the wayside. And so I would love for you to talk more to the black men. Man, I can't even imagine the weight that you guys carry. I mean, it's a lot.
It's a lot. And there's so much generational baggage that we're carrying. And so we're constantly trying to break a cycle.
Yes.
One cycle after another, you know. You know, I have 6 boys.
I know.
Right?
I just love that.
6 black men that I've raising and raised. I was just talking to someone.
You need to be in therapy every week.
Right. I was just telling someone that I've raised kids in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and finishing up in the 2020s.
Wow.
So that's
what
like
a call.
5 decades
Wow.
of raising kids
Boys.
and
Black
raising
boys.
black boys. And
Wow.
And I have to tell you, I didn't even understand what daunting of a task it is, even when I'm in the middle of it, right? And as I look back in retrospect, you know, I'm like, man, that was all. Thank God for, you know, His grace and His mercy, and And when I was young and stupid and was only parenting out of what was taught to me, and my father, God rest his soul, there were some things that I said I'm just not going to parent that way.
Yeah, sure.
I love him. He's a giant. I miss him. But there were some things that I said to myself, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so much of that is we build up a lot of pride too. And so that, that pull yourself by the bootstraps survival thing turns into pride. And we know this is biblical. Pride comes before the fall. So we have to get away from the pride piece and then allow ourselves to be vulnerable, which vulnerability is something that we don't necessarily embrace either, because it means that we are weak. And I have
showing emotion.
Right. And I've just learned that my strength does come from my vulnerability. It's what keeps me grounded. It's what keeps me aware of what's going on around me. It's telling my son, hey, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have came at you that way. Right?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's real good.
Like, my father never apologized to me for coming at me.
You do what I say,
right.
Period. You know what I mean?
Don't do as I do as I say.
Period. And I don't care if I'm right or wrong, right. You're going to do it.
Yeah. Yep. And so I just had to throw away all that old stuff that we've learned that has kept us from dealing with our stuff.
Wow.
And so I encourage men, and trust me, Jessica, don't think I'm sitting here with everything together.
Well, we're always evolving.
Right.
We're always evolving and progressing and trying to be better.
Yeah. So yeah. I there are days that I struggle.
Of course.
With everything that's going on. You talk about all the stuff that I do, and I'm just going to tell you, I told my wife, and I'm really being really vulnerable right now, maybe because it's you.
It happens on Jessica Lynn Speak Life.
I told my wife the other day that I'm feeling a little overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But me saying that out loud was freeing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, telling the person that you trust the most that, sharing that, because that's another thing we don't do with our mates. Because
you're the strong one. You have to make sure everything's good.
Yeah. We don't want to do that. Like, we don't want to break down. We don't want to, because we still think, even though you have done everything and said everything to us to prove that, baby, I got you, we still will cover up.
Yep. Because
we still will keep it in.
Won't take that Superman cape off.
Won't take it off. And so that I hope that as whoever within the sound of our voice who's watching this, I always believe in, especially being in radio and media.
Yeah.
You never know who's watching or listening to you.
Or when. This
right?
could, this is on the internet, so somebody could watch this next year.
Everywhere. The internet's forever too, right?
And I just that's what I love about what you're speaking, because I do believe that someone is going to hear this and it's going to help them.
I hope so.
We have to have more men, black men, speaking up and speaking out. How do you do it? I mean, how do you have a high schooler, you have one as a freshman in college. These are your two youngest. With everything that took place that they're seeing, with the inequalities that we've always faced that are more loud and clear now because of video cameras. Yeah. We've endured this our whole lives and our ancestors, and we know all of that. How do you deal with that with your two youngest? Well, I mean, we talk about it. They see the same videos I see. Probably they see them before I do, oftentimes, because they're constantly, they got this thing here. Yes, that cell phone.
It's that information that's coming through. So, when those videos go viral, they see it. I think that I've just given them the talk that we all got. So I got the talk in 1982.
Wow.
But
so many black men did not get the talk because they didn't have a father, Darron.
Yeah.
What about the young men that don't have a dad? I know that you used to be so big in helping boys and mentoring boys and things like that.
The OK program.
The OK program.
Hopefully it's coming back soon.
Good. I would love to see that come back. Is there any story, a success story with that, or any other young man that you may have mentored that didn't have the resources? And what would you say to, that's part one, and what would you say to listeners that know how to uplift and mentor men? What would you say to them in this climate? We need more help. Boys and Girls Club needs more big brothers and needs more big sisters. I mean, it's just big. It's just big.
Well, as far as a specific success story, I will point back to the kids that we worked with at the OK program, and
tell us about the OK program.
Well, the OK
for those that don't know.
program is OK stands for Our Kids. It's a mentoring program for African American boys 12 to 18 years old that partners with police departments. And what they actually do is that the OK program selects a police officer, and they become an OK officer, and all they do is work with these young men. That's all. They're not on patrol. They're not going on calls, and they are basically based in a middle school that feeds into a high school. So they're able to follow the kids from middle school all the way through high school. And that OK officer then, to your point, then recruits what we call teammates, and these teammates are just black men in the community. They could own a barbershop. They could be another police officer, fireman. They're just black men, and these black men then surround these black boys and give them exactly what you're talking about. Give them the mentorship. Give them somebody. They play games. They hang out. They have on Saturdays we have what we call the kick it session, and that's where everybody convenes. So you got the boys, the teammates, the OK officer, and they go over. They talk about things like what to do when a cop pulls you over, right? Right? How do you behave?
Being Black 101.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good idea. Being Black 101.
Yeah.
So we go and we have frank discussions about that, and the power of that is that that police officer all of a sudden becomes an ally instead of an adversary.
Yes.
Because I remember talking to Senator Roy Blunt when I met him, and by the way, Roy Blunt's a really great guy, but obviously our politics are different. But we were talking about policing, and he said, Darron, when I was growing up, my father told me, son, if you ever get in trouble, you need to find your police officer. They'll help you. And so I told Senator Blunt, I said, Senator Blunt, I appreciate that, but that is not the reality for young African American boys in our community.
Correct.
The cops are the last people they call. They call them Ray and Boo Boo them, and they put a gun in it, and Tyrone, and they're gonna go handle it themselves.
Yes,
if there's
absolutely.
a problem, they're gonna go handle it themselves. That's why we hear the gunshots in our community, because no, these kids do not trust police, right? And rightfully so. And that's one of the things that I hope that with the new police chief, as they're looking for a new person, I would like for them to come to the realization that the institution, meaning the police department, they're the institution. It is incumbent on them to build trust in the community. It's not incumbent on the community, because we're paying their bills. I mean, we're funding them. We're the taxpayers. The institution, anything that's institutionalized, it's just like a bank. What a bank wants to do, it wants to get your trust, so you deposit your money, right? It's their job. It's not my job to get me to trust you. You need to get me to trust you.
Correct.
And that's your job. So,
correct.
So that's what I'm hoping that our new chief, whoever that might be, understands that as an institution, we must. It must be a moral imperative that we must do everything we can to get the trust of our community back.
That's good. We must do everything we can to get the trust of our community back. Wow. So the OK program, is that the only program that was in Kansas City that may be coming back? I know we've got Higher Inspirations. We've got other boy
Henry
mentors.
does great work. Yeah. I mean, here's what I would like to see. I would like to see more collaborations between these mentoring programs.
That's where I was going.
Yeah, I think that from a funding standpoint, it could be beneficial. Foundations, especially big, large foundations, they are more apt to give more money when they see organizations collaborating.
Yes.
And if you are kind of in the same space or you're working with the same people, that's your demographic. So let's just say African American boys. I would love for people to, hey, let's go in on this grant together, or let's do some programming together. It's one of the things that in Kansas City that really probably it kind of gets to my goat. Is I really believe that if people are so territorial with their organizations that they don't want to collaborate. And I will tell you, you can't let your ego be your guide, right? I mean, and you can't be afraid that you're going to lose your funder because
there's enough out there for all of us.
Yeah. I mean, Kansas City is one of the most philanthropic cities in the nation, not just in this part of the country, but Kansas City is usually in the top 10 or 15 cities philanthropy, always, every year. So there's plenty.
And that's amazing. And we need to do more silos, and that's a great moment for me to share, if I can, about our upcoming 10th annual. Can you believe it's 10 years that we've been hosting our period product drive? So our 10th annual period product drive is, and when I say period, for those of you that don't know, all things period, all things menstrual cycle. So it's our 10th annual feminine hygiene, not feminine hygiene products, but specifically pads, tampons, reusable wipes, not reusable wipes, reusable pads, wipes, all things period. But this year will be our 3rd year that we are asking additional nonprofits that are not just domestic violence shelters, but that are higher inspirations, that are the OK program, that are, organizations that have nothing to do with domestic violence and period products, because the mission of the whole event is to bring awareness to end domestic violence as well as end period poverty. So we want all domestic violence shelters. They will be there. It's the only event in Kansas City, Darron, that brings all of the domestic violence shelters under one roof.
That's awesome.
Now, we need that. We need the collaboration. The organizations that have nothing to do with that, sororities, fraternities, they're all there.
Yeah, but that's still impactful because they learn.
They learn.
Okay, and also too, we don't know what a young man, what kind of trauma they're experiencing, and we do know that most domestic violence perpetrators have their own trauma that is connected to their behavior. It's kind of like that old adage, follow stupid kid home, somebody stupid will answer the door, right? So I think that's an important thing that you're doing there, is getting other people involved, and especially the domestic violence shelters. We got to break these silos. I just think it's important that
collaborations.
Because if we break the silos, because every nonprofit organization should have a sign. Like they have the sign when the football players are walking out onto the football field, and they have a sign that they hit. It's got a saying there, right? And they just hit it, like "Be a champion today," and they just hit that sign. Well, every nonprofit organization has something like that when they go into work. How do we put ourselves out of business today?
That's good.
How do we put ourselves out of business?
That's good, because we don't want to be in this business. We want this to be ended. And
we've created, Jessica, unfortunately, another industry, the industrialized nonprofit complex, like the industrialized prison complex, incarceration complex.
Let's just keep them coming.
And I just don't know. I want to believe that I think most people are doing it for all the right reasons. But there's also a part of me that's cynical and thinks that, I just think that people just like turning this money over again, and not really focusing on how do we eradicate this problem.
This issue.
You know, and so I remember when you first came on my show talking about, you know, the period product drive, and it just, and by the way, I mean, if you don't know about this, go to givinghopeandhelp.org.
See, he's the host. Look.
I couldn't help it.
I love it.
I don't know, because this is kind of weird. But I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah.
I just assumed.
Yeah. The people had this.
Yeah, people have this. And then when you put it into context of domestic violence, where the woman is grabbing everything she can and trying to get it, you know, go back for her kids and trying to get out of there before he comes back home, because she's done. She's tired. I'm out. And then she gets to where she's going, and then her flow starts, and she doesn't have that. As a man, absolutely can't fathom that. No. Can't even begin. I can only have empathy, but that doesn't happen to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
but you still advocate for it. That's what I love.
Yeah, of course, because it's like the girl that hit the car with her pothole and her tire. Now I have a woman here, and when I see people on the street struggling, and, you know, and they got a sign, and I give them $1, and I'm like, wow, maybe what I need to do is give them a bag of tampons.
And I'm going to give you a bag to put in your car, filled with everything to give for that woman when you see her.
Because we're seeing more and more women on our streets that are houseless and homeless.
Absolutely.
And I think of you because
thank you.
Because she might want money, but if she got that,
let me tell you, it's golden. I've seen it over and over. I've seen it. We fill purses with 20 or more items, and the first time that I gave this to a woman years ago, I saw her on the side of 71. I was on the other side. I had to get off, go back around, find her. Wasn't even sure if the bag was in my car, but I was hoping it was. And I looked in the back seat. It wasn't in the car. I said, it has to be in the trunk. So it was in the trunk. I pulled over, got in the trunk, and I said, ma'am, I don't have any cash, but I have this bag. And it was a beautiful purse, tote purse. And it was filled with 20 or more items, and it had sanitary napkins in there. And she looked in there. She said, oh, my God, I'm on my period right now. I need these. And she took that bag, and she said, thank you so much. And she said, I'm 46 years old, and I still have my cycle. And I said, it's okay. It's okay. And she took the bag and she ran. She says, I got to go use these now. And she went into an apartment building. And when I tell you, that was my first experience giving that bag away that I keep in my car. And I literally wept. I'm talking about sobbed.
Yeah.
On my drive home, because I had no idea. When I looked at her, I literally thought in my mind, Darron, that she wouldn't need the products because she was older. You don't know people's age. You don't know what people are going through. You don't know their story. She didn't care about nothing else in that bag but them sanitary napkins.
And again, like I said, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
And I really can't.
Yeah.
But I just know I can't empathize with the ultimate shame and embarrassment.
Yes.
What that brings.
Yeah.
And for someone like you to be able to remedy that in that moment.
Oh, my God. And it wasn't that I remedied
her dignity, right?
That's what it was. I was like, oh, my God, if that was me, you know what I mean? If that was me, we don't want to live like that. We want to have cleanliness and dignity. And so I get really emotional about that. Sorry.
No, you should. You do good work.
It's amazing. And so, So anyway.
You do good work.
December 10th, 2022. Will you be there?
Yeah.
December 10th, 2022.
And you got to come on my show before it happens.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we're ending period poverty, not just in Kansas City, but across the globe. So we got new initiatives for reusable pads for girls in Africa.
Wow.
And we're soliciting sewists.
Reusable pads?
Yes, so reusable pads are huge in Africa.
Wow.
Because they don't have the sanitation that we have.
Right.
They're being huge here in Kansas City. I have 2 nieces that have made their own for years
Wow.
because of their allergies and to different dyes and pesticides that are
Wow.
toxins, I should say. Or I don't know if it's toxins, but
when I talk to her.
it's not organic, I should say that. Let me scratch all of that, okay? So the products that we use have not been regulated by the FDA for many, many years.
Right.
And so they have different dyes and things in them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not organic unless you buy them organic, which are more expensive.
Sure.
So over in Africa, they don't have the sanitation we have. They don't have the money we have. They don't have the resources we have.
Mm-hmm.
So they hand make their own reusable pads.
Wow.
They wash them out and they dry them in the sun to kill the bacteria. So we have
That's
beautiful.
what nature do, right?
We have beautiful ones on our Amazon wish list that you can purchase, so that we're sending them over to Africa, and we're soliciting sewists as well, so that we can hand make them, and we're getting girls in Kansas City and in America more aware and educated on these options of natural products.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. There's an organization that are you aware of the organization? I know we're doing this on the air, but so the young woman makes custom bras. Custom bras for young people.
Now I know of a young lady who collects them here in Kansas City.
And she fits people. She fits girls for their bras.
Haven't heard. Where is she?
She's here in KC.
Okay.
I need to get you, because to me, what she's doing and what you're doing is a
Goes
perfect
hand
fit.
in hand. Yeah, I would love to.
Because again, I had her on my radio show, and we were talking about all the problems that not having.
Are you talking about Tiffany Price?
Yes.
Okay, I know Tiffany. Hold him up for care.
Hold him up for care.
Hey, Tiffany.
Hold him up for care.
Hold him up for care. So Tiffany, yeah, she fits the girls.
Yes, she fits the girls.
Yes, and we've donated bras to her, and
Good.
know who Tiffany is, and yes, we're in connection.
good.
Yes, so she's been at one of our drives as well.
Yeah.
I hope you're there this year too, Tiffany.
Hold him up for care. But it was another time when, as a man, I'm sitting here talking to Tiffany, and she's talking to me about how important it is for girls to be fitted for their bras.
Absolutely.
Because everybody's body type is different. And of course, me being a moron, you figure you just get the cup size and the all that stuff, and you go buy the bra, and it's like everything's good. But many of these young girls are in pain and uncomfortable at school trying to learn.
And how can you learn when you're hurting up here and you're afraid that you're going to ruin your pants because of your cycle?
Yeah.
It's just, we do a lot. We got a lot going on.
That's women are y'all the bomb.
We got a lot going on.
And in the whole scheme of things, man, we don't. But we do. But you guys have some extra things that, as well as being mothers and wives and all of that, being leaders in our community.
But we're built for it. We're built for it, and as are you. And I want to get back on you, and so we've spent a little time on. But that's it. That's we're talking about community.
Yeah. That's better.
Community.
I'm pretty boring.
No, you're actually an amazing powerhouse, and I'm just so proud of you. I'm just so proud of you growing up on the East Side. Just all that you've accomplished. It's just amazing, and I know sometimes you may think I could be doing more or whatever, but I think you're at the right place at the right time. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think that's one of my problems, is that I feel like I could always be doing more.
We all feel that way, I think.
And one of the things that you have to try to do is you have to strike balance. It's hard to do because these problems come at you at 90 miles an hour, and you want to jump in and you want to solve them. You want to save people. You want to people like you and I are cut from the same cloth. We are just constantly trying to figure out a way. How do we make this place better? How do we leave it better than we found it? How do we leave it for our children and their children? And couple generations from now, hoping that we can look back and like we actually solve some things. Like I said, how do we put ourselves out of business? The goal would be to Jessica, like, hey, you not have to worry about this problem anymore because
it's solved.
We have found, honestly, I this is to me, this is going back to what you do. I don't believe that people should have to buy feminine hygiene products.
Oh, that's another show. We have a male advocate, world.
I mean,
we have a male advocate. It's so true. It's so true. Toilet paper's free.
Totally.
Toilet paper's free. You just use it when you go to the bathroom. Yeah.
Like if a woman needs that in that moment, she should just be able to pull one out of a rack and keep it moving.
So I can advocate for Darron's story for KC on this show, and just because of your getting it on that part, you got my vote.
Well, I hope you vote for me. You did endorse me. She's on my website. You can go to storyforkc.com.
I endorse you, and because go to storyforkc.com.
FOR.
Storyforkc.com, and
see what I'm thinking about.
I think there's something on the screen. I don't know if you're seeing that, but
yes, it says great discussion. Jessica and Darron.
Great discussion. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah. So if you
was that a viewer?
I think that was a viewer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a viewer.
Yeah.
Well,
so thank you for tuning in, and please share this conversation. Darron, tell everybody, please, when they're going to vote for you, or when they have the opportunity to vote for you.
I like what you said first time. When they're going to vote for me.
Right.
The primary is April 4th, 2023. So. Right now, probably a lot of people aren't paying a whole lot of attention to this because you've got the November midterm that's happening.
Yeah.
And that's where everybody's focused, and as they should be. So many things are on the ballot. Democracy's on the ballot. Reproductive rights are on the ballot. We are living in an age where for the first time we have seen rights taken away versus rights being granted. And that's just strange because that's just not who I thought this country was about. I mean, do I think that there are people that are about that? Yeah, I know they exist, but to actually have that happen, and then as a man to try to reconcile that, even as a black man, I don't have anybody telling me what to do with my pee-pee. I can do what I want, and anytime I want. I mean, men, honestly, if we wanted to, we can impregnate you and then walk away without much consequence. I mean, child support, why people dodge that and beat the system all the time. So
daily.
As men, someone would probably say in a misogynistic way, we got it made. And I don't feel comfortable living in a society where you don't have the same rights as I do. I don't feel comfortable with that.
And it's so true. We need to. Wow.
I don't know if that answered your question.
That answered my question, which leads to me you coming back again before April, because we've got to talk about some of these things in more depth. Because yes, it is true. A woman should have the right. Period. And she should have free period products, but that's a whole nother conversation. And when you get in there, you're going to help us.
Well, those are the kind of things that maybe we can figure out how to do that maybe in city buildings, where, government buildings, like a government building, that's, we got toilet paper, right?
Right.
Like paper towels, soap dispenser.
Basic essentials.
And we are paying, as taxpayers, we're paying for all that stuff.
Absolutely.
That's inside of those bathrooms.
You may have some period products in there, but you have to put money in a machine to get them out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's right.
And who has a quarter at that time of need? Nobody. But anyway, another show. Or 50 cents or 75 cents or $1, because that's what they run. Yeah. But anyway. Darron, it has been an amazing pleasure to have you on the show. It's already an hour. Time flew by so fast, like I knew it would. I'm just excited. I'm excited for what's to come. I'm excited that you are going to help write a new story for KC.
Yep.
So storyforkc.com.
That's the slogan.
Say it again.
That's the slogan.
Say the slogan. Did I say it right?
Let's write a new story for KC.
Let's write a new story. I knew I left a word out. Let's write a new story for KC. Darron's story, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Yes, my brother from another mother. Jessica Lynn Speaks Life on KUAW Radio. Be blessed.